This is the Grand Slam Club, Ovis, in Adamsville, Alabama, on Highway 78. This is where Dennis Campbell has his big museum. Now, the exhibit at the Bankhead House is just a small number of the mounted animals on display. Here, there are about 500 mounted animals on display.
On the Hudson Bay of Nunavut, as a matter of fact, just right at the Manitoba border. So, yeah.
This thing is huge, Dennis.
They're big bears. They are.
Was he up like that?
No. I did it that way just because people
Stretch out and show you.
See, I knew we had the one on all fours,
Yes.
and we thought we'd do this one just for people to see something different, see how tall they can be. You know?
Oh, yes. Ferocious. Would not want to encounter that either. And you won an award for this one.
Yes, at our convention, Grand Slam Club always has a convention each year, and we have an awards program, and this won the gold award that year that I entered it.
No wonder. Dennis Campbell, this is incredible. I never saw so many animals, and you said it one day an employee counted them, and how many?
There were 500, but now we've added several since then. There's two rooms, of course, and Larry will have gotten the other room, but this is the biggest of the two rooms.
When did you start this museum?
I started putting animals in the Campbell's Pharmacy from that very first hunt in 1977, and then I added to it, and there's still animals in the pharmacy to this day. So on both sides of the pharmacy, but this museum would be approximately 10 years. Approximately 10 years.
When you started in 1977 on that first big hunt outside the U.S. or just outside of the continental or the lower 48, did you ever envision anything like this?
Never envisioned anything like this, Margaret. I just, however, I am a dreamer. Okay, and I'm an extremely goal-oriented person, and I did envision me hunting every time I got a chance. So, after very few years, I started having goals of getting to certain places, but never anything quite like this.
You had this space, though, or when you bought the pharmacy, was this space here?
No, I built the building where the pharmacy is, and there's several other businesses there, and then I bought this property next door, and built this building a few years later. We built the pharmacy building in 1988, and then this building would have come in, let's just say approximately 1995, so something like that.
Oh, it really is truly remarkable what you've done, and everything's beautifully done. Did you do all this yourself? All of the displays,
I depended on a lot of really good taxidermists.
to create the looks like natural habitat.
Right, dioramas and what have you. If you'd like, we can start with this diorama. Okay. There was a really fine taxidermy studio in Montana. It's known as Monarch Taxidermy, okay. And they designed this and just gave me a good idea. I knew they were real professionals. Gave me a good idea of what they were going to do. All of these animals are from, except one, are from Iran. I went to Iran in 2003. A lot of people don't even think you can hunt in Iran, but Iran is a tremendous country to hunt in. They have a lot of mountains in that country, and so they have a lot of sheep. So we have a Trans-Caspian Ural, Laristan Mouflon, Esfahan Mouflon, red sheep, and their goitered gazelle. Then that animal came, that's a Konya Mouflon. It came from Turkey. So,
okay.
Yeah. This one is so wide. That's a Konya Mouflon from Turkey.
Now, these are all in the family of the goat or antelope. Sheep.
Wild sheep. Yeah, there's a lot of wild sheep in here. Exactly 5 months to the day that I'd had both knees. Let me show you something else. Let's walk back here.
Ooh.
A friend of mine from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, donated this particular polar bear to the museum. So he's a pretty magnificent specimen. But we got this one standing like over a blowhole, waiting for the seal to come up through the hole to grab the seal. And that's the way they really do it. That's the way polar bears feed, is they find a hole like this in the sea ice and wait on a seal. That's not a real seal, by the way. You can't import seals anymore. But they're not endangered, but that's a Mammal Protection Act. Anyway, but the seal comes up and the polar bear grabs the seal, and that's the reason this is.
I didn't know they could feed on something that big. I thought they just fed on fish.
Oh, no, they eat very few fish. You're thinking about a Kodiak brown bear, which happens to be right next door to the polar bear. But now they eat a lot of fish, a lot of salmon. But what I wanted to show you is this mountain back here, Margaret. This mountain was also designed by a taxidermist from Montana. His name is Dean Hahn Taxidermy. But what I wanted to tell you, there's two things I want to tell you about this mountain. Number one, this is the Grand Slam of North American wild sheep. The very first sheep I ever took, I talked to you about earlier today, was this stone sheep from British Columbia. So that was in 1982. So that was the very first one I ever took. It's a really, really good one. Okay, so along the way, well, you've got stone sheep, Rocky Mountain bighorn, Dall sheep, and desert bighorn sheep. But there have been only about 50 people in the world that have ever taken the 4 and the score, like the Boone and Crockett or the Safari Club score of the horns, amounted to 700 inches of horn growth. And so I belong to the 700 Club because these are 4 really big specimens. So that's one thing I wanted to tell you. Here's the other thing I wanted to tell you. I don't know if you'll have the footage, but I was talking about that, I got my knees replaced in 2011, and that I thought my mountain hunting life was over.
Prior to the surgery.
Prior to the surgery in December. And I had gotten a very, very special permit in Colorado for a Rocky Mountain bighorn. And somehow or the other, we spotted this ram and I was able to make the stalk with my knees. Just, I mean, they were hyperextending, going backward. I remembered what that word was. One of them was hyperextending. How I made it up the mountain and how I made the stalk, only God knows. But this is the sheep that I took that day. So I thought this was my last mountain hunt. But God smiled on me. That was the other point I wanted to make about
Praises be to God. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
They are beauties.
And you were so interested about the caribou, and there are the rest of all the caribou species. And you remember I told you I had one that was almost all white. That's the Arctic Island caribou. So,
that is a beauty.
Yeah, so he's almost white all the way back. These others turn brown starting at their shoulders. But I told you I had we had the muskox rug at the Bankhead house.
Where is that animal from, Dennis?
It is from Nunavut in Canada.
Well, it kind of looks like what I would think of as a bison.
It's very, very similar to a bison, but smaller, even though it's got all of that hair makes it look bigger than it really is. But a bison's bison will be 3 times that big as far as weight goes. But with all that hair, it makes him look really, really big.
Well, of course, I've only seen them in movies, so
exactly.
You can't tell. You can't gauge the size.
Exactly. We were talking earlier about the Marco Polo that they come from Tajikistan near Afghanistan, and this is the animal. This is the Marco Polo I took right on the Afghanistan border. It's quite larger than the one that's at the Bankhead house, but they weren't able to bring it because it's on a diorama. And then remember I said that they come from Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan. So that one came from, the one with the longest horns came from Tajikistan, and this one came from Kyrgyzstan. So they are, very, very similar, but they're actually subspecies of each other.
Dennis, I know you're so very proud of this place. 10 years of work.
Yeah. That is a very, very big python. It was 16 feet long, and quite a snake.
And you did.
Yes, we found it and I shot it. Yep, it's a.
Well, Dennis, I think after you spotted that, you were motivated, weren't you?
Yes, we certainly were. That was very interesting. At the Bankhead house, the skull. See, this is just the skin put on a form. The skull is at the Bankhead house in a display, and his teeth go backward. If he were to catch you, if he were to grab you by the arm, he has teeth on the top, the bottom, and even in the middle. If he gets you, you could never get away from him. The only way you could get away from him is to literally cut his head off, because he's got you. Once he's got you, he's got you. And that's what he does, is when he catches an animal, the animal can't drag him around, but he just holds on to it until the animal, gets tired, and then he will encircle the animal and cut the breathing off from the animal. But he will actually completely consume a small antelope. That one right there. That's called a bush diker. And they live all in different places of Africa where the python lives. The python lives all over Africa, all over southern Africa for sure. But the python's a pretty common snake.
I would not have wanted to encounter that thing,
I told
Dennis.
you I took over in 1990, beginning with number 1 in 1990, black and white. We go all the way around the wall, and then we started over again, and then we all the way around, and we started again and all the way around, and now we've started again. So this represents everything from 1990, the magazines we've published.
I believe it was Seth that told me you publish quarterly.
We do. We now have 6 publications a year, but predominantly the quarterly is the one that's the most popular. So.
Since 1990, and I know you're proud of the membership. 1990, when you took over as executive director, 400, and now membership worldwide is what?
5,000. So, yeah.
Another great accomplishment,
Dennis.
Dennis.
Came from Cameroon. It's Bay Diker, Peters Diker, Ogleby Diker, Blue Diker, and a Bates pygmy antelope. That is that little bitty creature is a full-grown male and a really large one. Oh. That is the smallest. Remember, we were talking about the antelope of Africa. Well, they go from that size all the way up to eland, which is 2,000 pounds. So they're all called antelope. But the Bates pygmy antelope is one of the. It's either the smallest or one of the 2 smallest.
Yes.
See, it's just barely bigger than my hand, but he's a full-grown male and trophy quality, as a matter of fact. And but that's a Bates pygmy antelope. The 2 smallest antelope in Africa are the Bates pygmy antelope and the royal antelope. So, and now we'll come to the last animal, and then we'll go look at one more.
Those were really intriguing.
And you've seen a lot of sheep today, and you've seen North American sheep, you've seen Russian sheep, you've seen sheep from Iran, you've seen other animals from Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and so forth. But anyway, this particular animal comes from Mongolia, and he is the Hungai argali, and he gets his name from the Hungai mountain range of Mongolia. And this is the world record, and it's the only one ever taken where the curl of the horns are over 60 inches long. And the record for this particular trophy in the SCI record book, Safari Club International record book, had stood for almost 25 years. And I got this one, I know. It was June, Father's Day of 2008, so I know exactly when it was. But it was sort of funny. My daughter had put a card in my luggage for Father's Day, and when I read that card on Father's Day, she said, "I hope you are able to take a world record," and I did. so it was quite a story. But that was
her wish and gift to you, an award winner, isn't it?
Yes. If you could think about how heavy the horns would be, the horns alone would be over 50 pounds, just to hold the skull and the horns. So.
Now, Dennis, again, on this particular species, would each ring be a year? How does that work? It would be? Mercy.
And this animal, because he's so old, it's hard to tell. But he should not have lived as long as he did. But we estimated that he is no less than 14 years old, and he could be as much as 18 years old. Because what has happened, when you get down to here, the rings started getting too close together to actually count. And then there's some other years where they had really bad years. And I can show you right here. Look how close together these 2 rings are. That meant that it was during a drought year. And during a drought year, here's another one that's really, really close together. See how close together these rings are? And we think that this is actually 4 rings together, because they had a 4-year drought. And I was actually in Mongolia during that drought period. So we think that that's that 4-year drought period that they had. So again, we know he's 14, and we think he could have been as old as 18. That's what it took for him to be a world record. And he was living in a place where there were very, very few animals. Nobody ever hunted there, just because they didn't think there were any there. And we only saw like 5 or 6, but we saw him. That's the now it's 10 people now. So anyway, this is the we started, and I say we, Grand Slam Club Ovis, in conjunction with Safari Club International, started an award. And, we had looked at the World Conservation and Hunting Award trophy at the Bankhead House.
Yes.
And that is included within the Pantheon, but not only the World Conservation and Hunting Award, but also a person has to have taken all of the big game of North America, the 29 of North America called the Super Slam, the Grand Slam of Wild Sheep of North America, and then you also have to have taken 30 of the world's wild mountain goats and 30 of the world's wild mountain sheep. So that's the criteria for this. And to date, there have only been 10 people to do that. And one lady, her name is Rennie Snyder, a very special friend of mine. She's from California, and she's an amazing hunter. She's one of the greatest. She has taken as many trophies as any person ever has. And I honestly, I know I've taken over 500, and I think she's probably up around 700. So she's an amazing lady, Rennie Snyder.
My mouth is still open.
And then Jim Shaw, of course, the Pantheon, and it was designed after that, and of course the world globe, and then the different continents.
Okay.
See, this represents North America. This represents Africa. This represents the sheep of the world. This represents the goats of the world. This represents the North American animals, and this represents Africa. So you have to have hunted all of those animals extensively around the world. So it all sort of goes together.
Dennis, again, you say all of these awards that you've earned, you are still most proud of your conservation work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The fact that all of my adult life has been dedicated to conservation, and that's the thing I'm most proud of.
And it was prior to your 1990 association with the club,
Exactly.
the Grand Slam Club.
That's exactly right. And so I have been involved, extensively involved with conservation organizations since 1976. Beginning with the Alabama Wildlife Federation. I'm still involved with Alabama Wildlife Federation. A great organization. They have beautiful offices, and their offices are at a beautiful place called Lanark in just outside of Montgomery, and they host just hundreds and hundreds of kids every year. It's quite an educational facility. You might look it up sometime. Lanark. You were talking.
This is your publication here.
This is the publication of Grand Slam Club Ovis, and we call the main publication Slam Quest, and we gave it this name about 4 years ago. But our original publication was Grand Slam. That's where we started. So we started with Grand Slam, and then, so we now call the main publication Slam Quest. Our original publication was named Grand Slam. Our next publication was named Ovis. Our next publication was named Super Slam. We combined all three into one, and we now call it Slam Quest. It was just a natural progression, and it's just worked out perfectly for us. We knew publishing three different publications was quite difficult. So we combined them, and people have really enjoyed the combined.
It's a beautiful publication, a quality, glossy cover. Oh, I thank you.
There's a
we'll enjoy looking at that. We thank you so much for your time, and anyone can come by to the museum. You're open daily?
We're open usually 5 days a week, and normally 9 to 4:30. What we prefer if there's going to be a group, we have senior citizen groups, children's groups, church groups, you know, all different type groups. If you want to do a group, if you'll let us know in advance, that's better.
And your contact information, your phone number?
Exactly. Our number is 205-674-0101. And even if a person is just going to be one or two people, try to let us know in advance, because sometimes we have projects going, because we are sort of like running a business here too. But just sort of let us know in advance, but we'd love for you to come see us.
Oh, it's a great place to visit. Children, anyone would enjoy it.
Absolutely. It's everyone from 100 on down. Did you know we had my son-in-law, his name is Griff Israel. Griff's grandfather came, and he was 100 years old. And that was an amazing man. I think he's 100. He's either 101 or 102 now. I know. No, he's 101. So he came when he was 100. But he's Whittigen. A lot of people would know the Whittigen name. They have a wholesale air conditioning company in Birmingham, but he's the man that started that. Mr. Whittigen, I'm sorry I can't remember his first name right now, but anyway, that's a common name that people would recognize from Whittigen's in Birmingham.
Believe me, Dennis is right. Any age group would enjoy this great museum. And of course, the exhibit at the Bankhead House will be there until the end of September.
Okay, that's great. I thought it was ending in sometime in September.
And of course, that exhibit at the Bankhead House was just a fraction of your mounted beautiful animals